Hello, in this video, I'm going to go through all of the cards in my brother's Feather the Redeemed deck, focusing on the creatures, artifacts, and enchantments, the abomination amount of instants and sorceries, and the lands that make up his Feather deck. He is focused on winning through combat damage and casting a ton of instant sorceries onto his commander, and then being able to recur them, taking advantage of draw effects on cards like Psychotic Fury, scry effects, shield counters, all that kind of stuff. So first up, Psychotic Fury. Target multicolored creature gains double strike until end of turn, and then you draw a card. So your Feather would get draw a card. Whenever it resolves, you put it back into your hand so you can continue to draw cards and continue to make your land drops over the course of the game. Cloud Shift is another card that targets our commander but protects her. So Feather attacks, it gets dealt with some kind of damage or removal spell. You can Cloud Shift it, exile it. When it comes back into play, it's saved from the effect. Kind of like a protection spell, but different. And you can bounce it and take advantage of anything you need to do there. Reckless Charge. It can give +3/+0 in haste. It targets a creature, so it comes back and has flashback. So even if it doesn't resolve or doesn't work out the way you want it to, you can cast it with flashback later. God's Willing protects the creature, but also lets you scry one. So even if at the end of your last opponent's turn, if you're player one, player two, player three, player four goes, you can just cast all of your spells here, and they'd all come back at the end of the next end step. It doesn't say your end step, it says the next end step. So at the end of combat on their turn, you can cast all of your spells. They come back into your hand at the next end step, and you can take advantage of all the scry effects and draw effects that you want, as long as you have the mana to do so. Light of Hope is able to be a +1/+1 counter on your creatures. You can just keep doing that until you need to destroy target enchantment later in the game, which is great. Grape Shot can take advantage of the fact that you're putting all these cards and, storming off with all of your 1-mana spells. Cleansing Nova destroys all creature, destroys all artifacts and enchantments. If Feather's currently exiled or just the game's not going the way you need it to, board wiping is always a good idea. Blacksmith skill, 1 white for an instant. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible, so it can protect Feather or your artifacts and enchantments, or even your other creatures or your lands or anything else you have. Sudden Breakthrough gives your creature +2/+0 and first strike, which is great, but also creates a treasure token. So every single turn you get a treasure token. This spell really only costs 1, but it builds you up a mana each time, which is great. Feat of Resistance, 2 mana for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control against protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Seizing Anger, 1 red with a buyback of 3, but we don't really need to do that because Feather auto buybacks. Target creature you control gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So just a cheap spell to keep going. Emerge Unscathed, 1 white. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. And it has Rebound. Take up the shield. It gives your creature lifelink, indestructible, and a permanent +1/+1 counter. You want things that are permanent. You want permanent treasures. You want drawing cards. You want +1/+1 counters. Not only do you want to buff your creature and deal more damage with it, but you also need to take advantage of the fact that you're going to be able to keep doing this over and over again, and continuing to put +1/+1 counters in your creature is like a permanent piece of value that you get turn after turn after turn. Moment of Heroism, +2/+2 and Lifelink. Lifelink is so good, especially in a deck where you're trying to win through combat damage. You need to have a high enough life total to not die while you're attacking your opponents. Explosive Entry is one of my favorite cards in this deck. 1 red and a 1, destroy up to 1 target artifact, and then it puts a +1/+1 counter on one of your creatures, which means you now have a recurable destroy target artifact effect with your commander. You put the counter on your commander, you destroy target artifact, it exiles, it puts it back into play because, you targeted a creature of yours. I really love that card in this deck. Loyal Apprentice is a creature. Great Shrine Heist. Doesn't target any of your creatures, but just getting extra combat phases is great, especially when you're buffing Feather with your lifelink effects and such. Just taking advantage of a whole nother combat is great. Rebellious Strike. Target creature gets +3/+0 and draws a card. So now your lifelink is better, and you get to draw cards, which is a permanent effect. Each player chooses a creature you control. Most of the time, you're only going to have 1 creature with Feather. Destroy everything else, which is great. And each player gets to choose something, but Crumb and Get It. Gift of Food. Target creature gets +2/+2. And if the gift was promised, it also gains indestructible until end of turn. Brute Force. Target creature gets +3/+3 for only 1 red. A lot of damage. Lightfoot Technique. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature against flying and lifelink. All these counters are just, permanent things that stay in play, like I keep saying. Your commander is permanently going to get it. And since you have so many indestructible and flying effects, as long as you're making a land drop every turn, this comes back at the beginning of the next end step, not just on your turn. So you can just keep casting this and keep giving your creature indestructible. Razor Barrier, 2 mana, target permanent you control gains protection from artifacts or from the color of your choice until end of turn. Response and Resurgence, deals 5 damage to something, or creatures you control gain Flyer Strike and Vigilance, and it gives you another combat phase. Any deck that's trying to win through combat damage wants extra combat phases. Valorous Stance can either give your creature indestructible or destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. You keep seeing so many hexproof and indestructible cards because Feather's just going to be targeted constantly, and just always having access to these effects is great. Single combat, everyone chooses one thing and gets rid of the rest. Most of the time, you only are casting Feather. You only have Feather in play. Your other creatures are pretty expendable, and then players can cast creature or planeswalker spells in their next turn. There's no planeswalkers in this deck. There are a whopping 3 creatures in this deck, so it's not going to slow you down at all. You're going to cast your instants, you're going to cast your sorceries, and be in a great spot. Angelic Intervention, target creature or planeswalker you control gains protection from colorless or the color of your choice. If it's a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So a permanent effect, and then they also get protection. Blessed Alliance, choose 1 or more. So you can just keep doing this. So you can keep gaining 4 life, untapping 2 creatures, which is targeting it with Feather, or target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. So for white 3, you can target Feather with the untap effect, and then have them sacrifice a creature, and then you get that removal spell back into your hand. It's expensive. 4 mana to sacrifice something whenever they're attacking is an expensive effect. But the fact it just keeps coming back into your hand is phenomenal. Those are the first half. Let's get into the second half of these instant sorceries. Holy Day, prevent all combat damage with Ulti this turn. If you're winning through combat, your opponents are going to have a chance to attack you, and being able to throw this and have a fog effect in white is great. Double Cleave, target creature gains double strike. Double strike with all of our +1/+1 encounters and all of our plus effects is phenomenal. Borrowed Hostility, 1 red for an instant, escalate 3. Target creature can get +3/+0 or first strike, just depends on what you need. If it's blocked, you give it first strike. If it's going to deal the combat damage, give +3/+0. Shelter, target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice, and then draw a card on top, which is great. Teamer, Battle Rage, 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. And it gains Trample if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. 1 +1/+1 encounter on Feather. Make sure it continues to get that Trample and the double strike, which is great. Angel Fire Ignition, 1 red, white sorcery. Put 2 +1 encounter target creature. It gains Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste. I feel like they designed this card with Feather in mind. I'm sure they didn't, but like, come on. This is just a fantastic card. A repeatable +2/+2. 2 counters. Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Haste. Insane. Insanity. Unleash Fury, double the power of target creature until end of turn. This is phenomenal with the +1/+1 counters I keep talking about, and it's phenomenal with any kind of double strike effect, because you can take advantage of doubling the power and it dealing double strike. Promise of Loyalty, each creature puts a vow counter on target creature they control and sacks the rest. Each of those creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. I'm sure you're seeing the theme. He's playing board wipes. Xander is playing board wipes, but he's only playing the board wipes that keep Feather in play, which is insane. Sculpted Sunburst, 5 mana. Choose a creature you control, then each opponent chooses a creature they control with equal or less of power. If you chose a creature this way, exile each creature not chosen by any player this way. Gird for Battle, put a ++ counter each of up to 2 target creatures. It's a 1 mana repeatable, gets counters in play. Assault Strobe, giving double strike, I've already said, is phenomenal. It's a sorcery, not an instant, so you can't do it on all of your opponent's turn, but great card. Show of Confidence, instant. Whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each other instant sorcery you cast. Put a ++ counter on target creature, it gains Vigilance. Great card in this deck. Raking Claws, double strike is great, and you can just cycle it away if you don't need it, or to make sure you hit a land drop, stuff like that. Faced Shield, 1 white, target permanent you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. If you have 5 or less life, instead you and each permanent you control gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Giving protection on an instant for 1 mana. Repeatable with Feather is great. Soul's Fire, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Now you have a removal spell. Feather can just keep dealing damage equal to its power. If it has lifelink, it's even better. Regent's Authority, 1 white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's an enchantment creature or a legendary creature, instead put a ++ counter on it, and it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So now it's getting counters onto Feather, which is, stays in play. You get to do it every turn. Boon of Safety, 1 white for an instant. Put a shield counter on target creature, and then scry 1. Every turn putting a shield counter, and just continuing to scry. probably into more land drops. I mean, making land, the one thing that I'm looking through his deck and like, I'm thinking, okay, what needs to be improved? It needs to guarantee more land drops. I'm curious. I'm going to check as soon as I finish recording this video. Are there any land drop inducing cards, whether they're like explore effects that you put lands into play or searching for lands in white, because red's not really going to have any, that target something so they're repeatable with feather? I don't know. Built to smash, target attacking creature gets +3/+3. Impact Renaissance. Red and a 1 for an instant. It deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source or a permanent or player this turn. So Feather's going to deal a ton of damage, and then you can just disperse that damage onto a bunch of creatures. The important thing is you can have one of that damage target Feather. Think about that. If Feather deals 6 damage, you have one of the damage target Feather, and you deal 4 to that creature and 1 to that creature, kill their Llanowar Elves and their 4/4, it comes back into your hand, which is great. And then you can do it repeatedly because it says where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source or permanent or player this turn. It doesn't say it has to be your source. So now every single time combat happens on your turn, the next opponent's turn, the next opponent's turn, or the next opponent's turn, you get to keep casting removal spells, which is great because they come back every end step. Ajani's Presence, 1 white, put any number of target creatures, get +1/+1, and gain indestructible until end of turn for 1 mana. Joust, 2 mana sorcery. Choose target creature you control. Target creature you don't control. The creature you control gets +2/+1 if it's a knight. Then those creatures fight each other. Now you have a repeatable fight spell because it targets your creature and just keeps coming back into your hand. Stave Off, protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Relentless Assaults. Untap all creatures, you get an extra combat phase. Riot Control, gain 1 life for each creature your opponents control. Prevent all damage to be dealt to you this turn. And then Tail Slash, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. A repeatable board wipe. Not a board wipe, but a repeatable damage spell. Now I'm going to get into the creatures, artifacts, and enchantments. I'm just going to put them in a pile to make it easier for myself. Loyal Apprentice. Every turn makes a 1/1. You know, you have effects like Gird that put creatures counters on multiple things, and having multiple creatures to be able to target onto flyers gives you plenty of good blockers and attackers, honestly. Runaway Steamkin, you're casting a lot of spells, being able to take advantage of the mana from this and just keep casting multiple in the same turn, drawing a ton of cards is great. Young Pyromancer, you have more instant or sorceries in this deck than you do lands. So Young Pyromancer is great in this deck. Scroll of the Masters. Every time you cast one of your instant sorceries, you put a counter on this, and then 3 tap. It puts a ton of +1/+1, not counters, but a temporary +1/+1 onto Feather, which is great. Arcane Signet, Ramp, Soul Ring, Ramp, Curse of Opulence. 1 red for an enchantment or a curse. Whenever enchanted player is attacked, create a gold token. Each opponent attacking that player does the same. So everyone can take advantage and you can kind of target him. He's a big fan of that card. I'm not such a big fan, but he is. Most of these cards are basic lands because this is a budget build by him. He likes the budget Feather, but the lands that are not budget, or they probably are budget, but they're not basics, are Inspiring Vantage, Relentless Bivouac. Now you have a creature that can attack, and every single time it attacks, it puts a ++ or counter target creature control, so now you have more counters on Feather, and it's super easy to protect him in this deck. Command Tower, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Temple of Triumph, just lands, and then these are 3 lands I'm going to give him to put in. Battlefield Forge, Clifftop Retreat, and Route to Prairie. So those are all of the cards in his Feather the Redeemed deck. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. If you have any comments or things that you could think to improve Xander's deck, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you to Xander for letting me borrow his deck to make this video. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.